Hi, I'm Larry Menti. Atlantic City, New Jersey is going to take center stage in this election thanks to Donald Trump. The Republican presidential nominee likes to brag that he got out of Atlantic City just in time and made a whole lot of money. But critics, and especially his opponent, Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton, likes to say that he made that money through bankruptcy and by stiffing contractors and workers alike. So what is the truth about Donald Trump's time in Atlantic City? Let's begin with Kolodziej. Ellen.
Thank you, Larry. Dozens, if not hundreds of contractors say they lost millions of dollars because of Donald Trump's bankruptcies in Atlantic City. And we found one man far away from AC who now runs a bed and breakfast. He says Donald Trump changed his life, and not for the better.
He's a thief, okay? Now, if you steal money from somebody, if it's legally stolen, okay, or if it's just taken out of a bank account, or you rob them, you're stealing them. Okay, so you're a thief when you do something like that, okay? And what he did in Atlantic City was really nasty.
J. Michael Deal says he sold Donald Trump 8 pianos for the Taj Mahal back in 1990. But instead of getting the $100,000 he was promised, he got 70 cents on the dollar.
It took away $30,000 that I expected in working capital. And any small business depends upon working capital to grow. So it sort of stunted our growth for a while. It had a negative effect on my income for the year, okay? But I consider myself, after what I'm hearing now, I consider myself lucky because some people only got 10 cents on the dollar.
7 years ago, I left Atlantic City before it totally cratered, and I made a lot of money in Atlantic City, and I'm very proud of it. I want to tell you that. Very, very proud of it.
Many others, such as Marty Rosenberg, say they were also burned by Trump during the 4 times his companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcies in Atlantic City. He introduced Hillary Clinton during her rally there, where she recently blasted the business mogul.
Trump's actions caused great financial burdens to most of us. Some lost their businesses. Some went through bankruptcy. All suffered emotionally. All while Mr. Trump went about his extravagant lifestyle, never giving any of us a second thought.
Now, I spoke with Marty Rosenberg on the phone and several others who say they were also burned by Trump in Atlantic City. And they say they've been inundated with national and local media requests, but they've denied them all lately because they say they are sick of talking about Donald Trump. So I also found a man who says he worked in Atlantic City for Trump, and he paints a completely different picture.
Harry Hurley worked for Trump Castle Casino Resort in 1989 for 2 years. He says, quote, Mr. Trump was great to work for. He never missed spending 2 to 3 days a week with us. Despite the many lies you hear now, Trump has a fine appreciation for his employees. When you work for Trump, he remains in touch. And in my case, we've maintained a very positive relationship in the 25 years since I left his employ.
Donald Trump has insisted repeatedly in many interviews that this is all just a part of doing business. And he says that most people in this country, including Hillary Clinton, just do not understand how the laws of bankruptcy work. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Kolodziej.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Now we're going to continue the conversation about what really happened with Donald Trump in Atlantic City with Carl Zeitz, who is a former member of the New Jersey Casino Control Commission. Sir, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Let's lay a little groundwork. First of all, what power did the New Jersey Control Commission have over Donald Trump when he first came to town?
Well, in those years, we were a 5-member commission, and we were the ultimate authority in all matters of casino regulation, from the smallest to the largest, whether what the odds of the game were, to who owned, operated, financed, worked in everything, every bit of having to do with the licensing and ownership and operation of casinos.
Now, even though it's an independent commission, we should point out that you're a Democrat.
Yes, I am.
And you're not a fan of Trump?
No.
Were you a fan of Trump even before this election?
When Donald Trump first came to us, he was coming to us as a very young man of about 35 or 6. This was 1980, 81. His reputation was coming out of New York, having just done the Grand Hyatt project. We were dealing with the ancient history of the casino industry in Nevada, people coming to us with all kinds of problematic histories in their corporations having to do with organized crime. To us, Donald Trump looked like a breath of fresh air. Bright young developer from New York, good reputation. Clean bill of health from the Division of Gaming Enforcement. He got qualified, not licensed, qualified. You have to be qualified to own, operate, finance casinos. He got qualified very easily in 1981.
So in that respect, not politically, in that respect, you were a fan of his back then.
Yeah, there was we had no issues with him. In fact, I'm one of the two commissioners who voted not to license the Atlantic City Hilton. Very quickly, Donald Trump came in, made an offer at the full price that the Hilton Corporation had invested, so $320 million, and bought it, and it became Trump Castle.
What went wrong? Because it went from Donald Trump going there and owning and building properties to bankruptcies. What went wrong? You were there during the first few years of it, right?
I was the commissioner for 8 years, and I always want to make the point that I ended my service on the commission December 2nd, 1988, and that precedes all the bankruptcies, but I know the history of them, roughly speaking.
So let's take it from the time you were on the commission. Was he doing well that whole time?
He was doing okay. He had opened, in partnership with Harris, he had built and opened the Trump Plaza. Then, because of the Hilton licensing vote, which people in AC are very familiar with, he was able to acquire Trump Castle. Then, as I was leaving the commission, he got involved, we all got involved, and he got involved in the deals that ultimately transferred the land and the Trump Taj Mahal, what became the Trump Taj Mahal, from the ownership of resorts, which was controlled by Merv Griffin, to Donald Trump. And it was the investment in the Taj, which reached, I think, $1 billion, that began the downward spiral, because the properties were not producing the money that were needed to support that construction.
Did he overextend himself?
I would say clearly, because within 2 years of the Taj Mahal opening, all 3 casinos that he owned, and at that point he owned them separately, personally and privately, all of them were in bankruptcy, in Chapter 11.
Do you think he has the right to brag about making a lot of money when others lost money in Atlantic City? Did he, and should he be bragging about that?
Well, it's kind of an inversion. He made tons of money. I don't know the total, but I would guess it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars in all these transactions, bankruptcies, purchasing his own properties from himself through the new public corporations, extracting under contract. His properties would pay him vast amounts of money for the use of his name. So yes, he made tens and hundreds of millions of dollars personally. I don't know the exact total, but people could figure that out. Other people did very well, some did not. Atlantic City's failure owes principally to competition in other states, Pennsylvania and New York principally. That's why it has failed. That's why its market has.
So it wasn't Trump that hurt Atlantic City. He failed there. But you're going to see, I would imagine, Democratic ads coming out with contractors who didn't get paid.
Yes.
I think that's fair to say that's coming. Yes. How much truth is there in that? Did he hurt people that much?
I don't have the detail on that, but I have heard over the years that many contractors got stiff. People were left with small businesses, relatively, you might have a small multi-million-dollar contracting firm doing plumbing or electricity or tile work where, your gross business is a few $1 million a year. But if you get stiffed by somebody who's giving you a $5 million contract and you wind up being told it's 20 cents on the dollar or you can just go choke, buddy, that's the stories I've heard. I don't know.
It went from 80 cents on the dollar down to 10 cents on the dollar. And the only reason I know this is because I sat and talked with some contractors at a 4th of July party, and they said this, and the pushback to them constantly from other people that were there, yeah, but you made a lot of money. Yeah, but you made a lot of money over an 8 or 10 year span before that, and they agreed to that. But they said there were some people that made 10 cents on the dollar that lost their homes. There were some people that made 10 cents on the dollar that had problems.
That's a conversation you had. I wasn't there. I can't speak.
Yeah, no.
But I can tell it.
But is that true? Is some people hurt that much in the bankruptcy?
I've heard so, but I don't know. Again, if I'd been on the commission, I would have heard testimony, evidence, but I wasn't there. By then, I was gone. I want to make this is an important point. Okay. There were altogether 6 bankruptcies involving the name Trump in Atlantic City. 5 of them involve him. 4 of them precede the competition that came from Pennsylvania, which legalized in 2006, or the slot parlors at racetracks in New York. So his failures in Atlantic City have nothing to do with the competition that has taken Atlantic City down. They were his failures, his business's failures, his casino's failures, for a lot of different reasons.
That's an important point to make, and I hope we were able to separate some of the fact from fiction, but I don't think it's possible. I think that there's so much fact and fiction there that you need a really good investigative reporter to get in there, and I'm sure that's coming.
Yeah, I understand, and I can't say who because they've talked to me twice, but there is a major news organization in this country that's preparing to issue a book about him and his life and his business. So, and it's coming out pretty soon, I've been told.
Thank you so much, sir. I
you.
appreciate talking to you. Carl Zeitz is the former member of the New Jersey Casino Control Commission and was there under some of the time, especially when Trump first came to town in Atlantic City. When we come back, we want to continue to talk about the Trump effect, not in Atlantic City, but on the political landscape, when another thing continues.